Picking up where we left off in the last video, we created a virtual device, and here it is, and here's our buttons. Right now the buttons don't really do anything, so I want to show you how to just for fun, I'm going to show you how to create a little button that actually does something. So when you click on the button, it will display a message that says, "Hi, how are you doing?" or "Welcome," or something like that. So let's see what we can do. So there are a couple of things that need to happen. First, we need the button, and if we open up activity main over here, it's under resources and then layouts. If we open up activity main.xml, and I'm going to go ahead and close that so we have more space. But if you see our buttons there, I'm going to go ahead and just delete that button. We don't want it. So this button, I'm going to do Control R. That'll run on the virtual device, and if every time you do that, it'll take at least a few seconds. So you see it closes the app, and there's our one button. So it kind of emulates what's on our UI element here. And this over here to the right is kind of we'll talk about that layout later. Might even talk about constraint layout, I don't know. So the button, so what's important is that we get the ID for the button. If we click on the button here in the, not in the emulator, but in Android Studio, you can see it has an ID of button. So ID button, wrap, layout width, wrap content. This is the important stuff, and there are lots of stuff you can set. There's go. So basically, so what we're going to do is, so remember that this is called button, and what we're going to do is we're going to go up here. I'm in Android view, so click Android view, to Java, to the first package name, not one of the test packages, and I created about and contact in the last video. We don't want those, I might delete them, but the one we're looking for is main activity. So if you're familiar with Java, this should look familiar, or if you've coded any Java before, this should look somewhat familiar. You have, public, class, main activity, and if we go into our manifest, you can see our main activity is here. The activity, the Android manifest.xml file is kind of like we talked about before. It's kind of like a little guide for the entire app. It shows all of it'll kind of register all the different screens and stuff. It just kind of tells Android a little bit about your application. But I'm going to go back to main activity, and what we want to do is we want to do text, or actually no, not text view, button in button. And on that note, I want to press Control comma, and I want to show you, this will go to the settings, and what I want to do is I want to show you something. There should be auto import. Forget where it is. Yeah, so I have show, so I just searched for, I just opened up, you can go there, Android Studio preferences. But what's important is that you turn on auto import. So these are all checked, as you can see all mine on my Android Studio. I'd recommend, let's see, show yes. So I check all of these boxes. So basically what happened is, if you go up to the top of our screen here, you can see you can see import android.widget.button. It's basically saying, hey, because let me get rid of this actually. So now at the top, see where we have the button, it went away. So I'll do it one more time. So do button in button, and see how it added it back in. That's because auto imports is turned on. So make sure you have that turned on. It'll help you out a ton. So what we're saying here is, hey, this button, and if we go to our, I'm going to use the tabs at the top, but if we go into our XML layout, and yeah, it's called button, or actually what the data type is, or what it's button here. We're not going to go into detail right now, but basically I just drag it in there. So this can be anything. This can be ASDF. It can be totally anything. So now we're going to go inside of onCreate. And this is a method where it's inside of, we'll go into detail later, I don't want to confuse you, but we'll do ASDF equals find view by ID. And if you notice, it's popping it up for the first one for me. That's because I use it a lot. But if it doesn't, just type all of it in. And then we need to type something. We need to type, remember this, and you'll be doing this every single day, r.id. Now we need to, this is going to link it from this main activity class. It's going to link it to the XML layout. So it's going to link it to this button. And this button, as we talked about earlier, is called button. So the ID is button. So we do r.id.but, and we can enter it in already. I'm going to put a semicolon at the end of the line. This is basic stuff. If you need help, leave a comment. I'm going to put my mouse over it and do Option and press on my keyboard Option Enter. And it'll say cast button. I'm going to hit enter and see the red line goes away. So we have our button. I'm going to go ahead and save it and then do Option Command L to format. And I'm going to do Control R to run. And we're going to run it, and not much should change. Everything should look the same. Nothing changed. I'm just doing that just to make sure. So let's do something. Oh, and I should show you the Android monitor. So if you click on the monitor at the bottom, this is kind of like a view of what your app outputs. So like what the emulator, what it's kind of, I don't know how to describe it. We'll get into that later. But what I want to do is I want to make a toast, or we'll do it to the logcat instead. So let's do asdf.set OnClickListener, and I'm going to start typing set OnClickListener, and it'll select it for me. I'm going to hit enter, then I can type new on with a capital O, and you can see the first thing it's selecting for me is some code. I'm going to go ahead and hit enter, and it'll generate a lot of code for us. Now you might be kind of confused by this, but it just basically generated a lot of code. It basically says this ASDF, and we should refactor that. So I'm going to do Shift F6. We're going to call that M button. Enter. That'll refactor it. So basically, what a refactor is, it'll change it from what we had ASDF there, and there. So it changed it in all three places. So what I did is I double clicked on it. Then I did Shift F6, and we can call this Great Button. We can call it anything, and see how it changed it. Great Button there, and there. So refactoring is going to be your friend. So let's do something. Let's do log D. I'm going to type log D, and I'm going to hit enter. And see how it generated some code for us that says log.d tag on click. I'm going to put welcome. And I'm going to hit enter. And see how it's giving us an error on the tag. It basically means that we need to go up to the top, right below app compat activity, and do log T. So type LOGT, log T, hit enter, and that should go away. So I'm going to save it. I'm going to do Option Command L, I'm going to do Command S to save it, Control R to run it. I'm going to go back to our device, and I'm going to click the button, and I'm going to go down here, and it looks like this worked. So open up Android Monitor. So go to the bottom, open up Android Monitor, and see where it says OnClick Welcome. If we look at our Java code, that's what we typed. We typed OnClick Welcome. This can be anything. Welcome home. So I'm going to save it, do Control R again to run it, and watch the emulator. It'll take it down. Or actually, it's Instant Run is on, so it'll do it. Oh, and turn on Instant Run if it's not. Pretty sure it's on by default. But Instant Run is something else that'll help you out. So if I click the button again, see now it says Welcome Home down here. Now this is not too useful right now. You obviously don't want your app, when people download it from Google Play, you don't want them to open up Android Studio and see a message like this. But this is the basics, just to let you know. Oh, I'll go ahead and click it multiple times. So I'll open up the emulator. I'll click it again and again and again and again. You can see every time I click it, it creates a new line. So I don't want to confuse you too much, but I'll go over this briefly. I'm going to go ahead and close with Command 6. I'll close that. So first we created a button in XML. I clicked and dragged it in. You just click, you drag it in. Not working. Anyway, so we dragged in the button. We called it button there. We went to main activity and we created that's a type of button, and we called it Great Button, and we set Great Button. We used find view by ID to link it to the button, and if you hold down the Command key and click on the button, it'll take you to it in the XML. I'm going to click on the design view at the bottom, and so I don't know how to explain this very well, but this the next line will probably confuse you. But remember, a lot of it can be generated for you. So what we do is we say, hey, Great Button. Every time somebody clicks on this, I want you to do something. So new on. So every time somebody clicks, I want to do ASDF. I want to write that to the log. So I'm going to save it and run it. I'll open up my emulator again. I'm going to hit the button a couple of times, open up my Android log, and here it says OnClick ASDF. So every time we click on that button, that's basically what these lines say. Every time we click on it, I want to do this line right here. So anything between that and that will get executed. And all we have right now is this right here. So hopefully you weren't too confused. If you were a little bit confused, please leave a comment and I'll get back to you. But this is how you create a button in XML, how you link it from your Java, from this main activity, from this. So basically we're linking that and that together. Main activity, I'm going to close that. We're going to link it, and we're going to do, every time somebody clicks on it, we're going to do this. And this is not too useful, but hopefully this will make a little bit of sense. And in the next video, we'll go into more detail about what you can actually display a toast message, a little message on the Android device. So we'll do a toast message in the next video. Stay tuned.